I'm Mark, and this is the Mr. Productivity Podcast, the podcast to help solopreneurs banish overwhelm, reduce stress, and get more done. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking with Nicole Cherie Oden. She is an attorney licensed in California for over 11 years. She works as a legal consultant, helping online service providers and digital product creators legally protect their online businesses and brands with custom contracts and policies or legal templates they can customize for their unique businesses, as well as federal trademark registration. Now, before we dive into today's show, I want to invite you to sign up for my free 21-day productivity challenge. As a solopreneur, you've got a lot to do, and this challenge will help you be more productive at it. All you have to do is invest 1 minute a day in reading a tip that will transform your productivity habits in less than 1 month. To sign up, head on over to my website, MrProductivity.com. That's M-I-S-T-E-R, MrProductivity.com, or click the link in the show notes. Now, as they say in Hollywood, on with the show. Counselor, welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I can't not say that because you're an attorney. And I've watched too many shows on TV where Your Honor, Counselor, I object. And I had to start the show. But your name is Sherry, and you're a lawyer, as I just said in the introduction, out in California. And how I met you was good English, Mark. How I met you was through my coach, Krista Mullion. And when she found out I didn't have terms of use or privacy policy on my website, I think she had a heart attack. She blew up my WhatsApp. She's going, what do you mean? What do you mean? You had to go to this girl's website and you have to buy the online membership bundle, which I did. I am now fully protected. Thank you for Nicole. And we're going to talk a lot about that because the people who listen to the show are mainly solopreneurs. And when you're a solopreneur, you are a solopreneur. You are all by yourself. And sometimes you don't think about these little things that can cost you a lot of money in the long run, correct?
Correct. I mean, as a solopreneur, you're wearing all the hats, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on that you're having to handle yourself.
One of the very first things, I guess it may even be a law. I'm not a lawyer, but the privacy policy, is that a law in the United States?
Okay. So before I launch in, I have to give my standard disclaimer. It's the attorney in me. And everything I'm going to chat about with you today is legal education and information. It's not business, financial, or legal advice. Doesn't create an attorney-client relationship between us. And you definitely want to chat with an attorney in your area to make sure you're taking the right steps for you and your business. As for having a privacy policy on your website, that is state law right now. There is federal legislation pending in the US, but California was actually the first state in the US in 2004 to require businesses that do business with Californians to have a privacy policy on their website. And several states have followed suit. There is also international laws that require a privacy policy, the biggest being the General Data Protection Regulation that the European Union enacted in May of 2018. And they require you to have a privacy policy if you do business with any European Union resident, even just one.
Now, this was not a big thing 10, 15 years ago. Do you remember what happened in our society where the lawmakers had to get involved?
Yeah. So if you think back to kind of marketing tactics, really, over the past 10 years, if we're being honest, things got very kind of slimy, and marketers were bombarding consumers with emails and text messages and phone calls. And consumers were kind of like, I just made a purchase. Like, why are you essentially harassing me online, trying to continue to market to me when I don't want all this marketing going on? And so that's kind of where things evolved, especially in California, to where you now have to be providing kind of this affirmative consent to how businesses are handling your personal information and what they can do with it. So really the purpose behind data privacy legislation was to hand control back to the consumers.
Now, I'm old enough to remember when there was no computers. I was born in 1965, and the big thing about hitting the senior in 1982, 1983 is you got to go into computer lab and use an Apple II, I think we were using. But there was no internet that we as consumers could use. I'm sure the government and universities had it. And so if you grew up when I grew up, this is foreign to you. But now the internet's on 24/7, 365. Now we have this chat GPT thing. We're not going to talk about AI on the show today because my head will explode literally on the show. And I still can't get my head wrapped around that because I'm old fashioned. I write my own content myself. I need some AI to do it for me. I can do it myself. I got so much content on MrProductivity.com anyways. So, but getting back to privacy, one of the things about privacy is the email. Now, email is not going away, people. It's not going away. If you don't believe me, you have to sign in to Facebook and Instagram with what? An email address. So, but for me, I have what's known as the double opt-in because otherwise anybody can sign anybody else up for my email list and then you can report me in spam and that's a whole different conversation. So that's a form of privacy. But the privacy policy I got from you, which I think is genius, by the way, because you give me this form and I go through and everything that's highlighted, you tell me exactly what to do. And I like how you say, delete the yellow highlights. That's a good thing. You don't want that on your website. That's kind of weird. But we need people like you. But I was talking to you a few weeks ago and you were telling me that if I were to work with you one-on-one to create my privacy policy, it would cost way more than the price I paid for the bundle.
If you think about it, working with an attorney, I mean, we've gone through law school. We had to pass at least one state's bar exam to actually be a practicing attorney. So there is actually a difference between lawyer and attorney. A lawyer is somebody who went to law school and passed law school. An attorney is somebody who not only passed law school, but they are barred in at least one state in the United States.
I did not know that. I thought they're the same thing. I thought they're the same two words used to describe the same person.
They're used interchangeably, and I am both a lawyer and an attorney, but there are lawyers who are not attorneys because they don't practice law.
Now, listener, how many of you out there listening to this podcast right now? Obviously, you can't. We're not live when you're listening to this, but did you know that? Because I did not know that. I think that's utterly fascinating.
It's kind of one of those distinctions because there are some people who choose to go to law school to learn negotiation tactics and other things that come with the Socratic method in law school to be able to apply that to careers outside of the legal world. But with all of that schooling and that knowledge, I'm in California. I'm in Los Angeles. So I'm next to Beverly Hills, huge Century City law firms. And the going average rate varies between like $500 to $1,200 an hour. Obviously, if you're in a state that has a smaller population, it's not so congested with businesses. But California and New York are notorious for much higher attorneys rates, point blank. So for me to spend a couple of hours with you walking through what your website looks like, the products and services that you're going to offer, what you're going to do with the personal information that you collect and how you're going to handle it and protect it, and drafting kind of that customized policy, it adds up versus something that you at least have the peace of mind knowing an attorney drafted, but there is some responsibility on your part to then go in and customize and make sure that you're being as thorough as possible. So that's kind of the difference, right? It's the done for you versus the DIY.
Now, how did you come up with this idea? Were you like dealing with a lot of people, creating these documents for them, and then a light bulb went off? Or did you have a coach that says, hey, you know what? There's an opportunity here for you.
So in 2016, 2017, I had stumbled into the online space myself, more on a personal development type journey. I'd had my daughter in 2016. I was a working lawyer. I had made the transition to jump and start my virtual law firm, which I still run to this day. And I started connecting with other female business owners online. And so they would find out I was an attorney. And all of a sudden, I'd start getting questions in my Instagram and Facebook messages. What about this contract? What about this provision? Is there, what type of entity should I set up? And to me, it was kind of like a no-brainer. Why are you not chatting with an attorney about this? It didn't make sense to me as an attorney. And, 9 times out of 10, their response was, it's too intimidating. It's too expensive. A lot of them had budgeted for the more kind of shiny, fun things for their business, their websites, their logo, social media management, those, the things that are fun to invest in versus the things that you need for an actual legitimate long-term business, like your legal and your financial foundation. And so it was kind of that light bulb moment for me where it was, okay, I can help these people and kind of meet them where they are and make sure they have something, right? Because contracts are so instrumental to making sure you're protecting this business you're working so hard on. And so the legal shop was born.
Wow. It's fascinating because what I purchased from you, in full disclosure, I didn't get a discount. Full price. I got the online membership bundle. Now that includes the privacy policy, the terms of use, and the membership agreement that people, when they join the Productive Solopreneur community, have to agree to. So can you walk us through those 3 policies that I purchased from you and the importance of each of them?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, data privacy laws are still evolving to this day. I mean, they're being enacted in more and more states here in the US. Federal legislation is coming. We just don't know when. Every country has their own data privacy laws. So as a solopreneur, trying to, siphon through data privacy laws, I mean, it's probably not the first thing you're going to sign up for.
So, wonder why.
So the privacy policy is that legally required document that you need to have on your website if you are collecting personal information from your website visitors.
Even an email address.
Even an email address. So the definition of personal information kind of varies depending on what state and what country is defining it. But from kind of an overarching perspective, it really is anything that can identify a person, from name, email address, telephone number, and really even cookies on your website. So if you're using Google Analytics and that can be tied to an IP address, you are collecting personal information on your website and you need a privacy policy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense. I think anyone listening to this episode is going to go, okay, I get the privacy policy. It's a fact of life. But what are these other 2 things Mark talked about? Terms of use and membership policy.
Yeah. So there's 2 policies, actually. There's a terms and conditions and a terms of use. And they both have similar functions, but they're different. So terms and conditions are for your website. They are the rules of the road for your website users. So if you are posting blog articles or you're just having people come to your website to read about your services, your terms and conditions dictate what they can do once they're on your website. Those are not legally required, but if you have an issue come up with a website user, they are the first place that the court's going to look to kind of decide how to handle the dispute. I always say privacy policy and terms and conditions go hand in hand for your website. Like, period, end of story. You should have them to protect you and your intellectual property. I mean, one of the provisions in your terms and conditions deals with how people can use your website's content. You don't want somebody coming and just downloading images and all of your content and putting it up on their website and passing it off as theirs.
Now, I'm a little confused. I have a question for you. So when I purchased the online membership bundle, I got the privacy policy. I thought I got a terms of use and the membership.
You probably got the terms and conditions and then the membership agreement. Okay. And terms of use are if you have digital products. So
like a course or something like that. Okay.
Correct. So if you offer digital downloads, if you have an e-course, or if you have an online membership, then that is what you would be using for people who agree at time of checkout. So they're going to be agreeing to your terms of use. So there's also a mastermind agreement or a membership. The membership falls under the terms of use. So there's kind of 2 different things. It depends on what services you're offering. If it's a membership, we're more looking at terms of use for the membership. If it's a mastermind and there is a difference, then that's a separate agreement.
If you listen to Nicole, listener, listen, my head's spinning too, because she's a lawyer and you're like, privacy, terms and condition, terms of use, membership, mastermind. Take a breath. Remember, at the end of the show, we're going to tell you how to get a hold of Nicole and how to find her wonderful shop that has all these things. So just take a breath. Believe me, I've talked to her like twice already and my head's still swimming. Okay. So you're not alone in this. But this is important because, like you told me on one of our phone calls, that if you don't spend, I think I paid $327 for these 3 policies. If I were to get sued, I'm not going to get sued for like $327. I'm going to get sued for a lot more than that in all likelihood, plus maybe attorney fees. So it's quite the bargain.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I mean, look, the question isn't if you're going to have an issue come up as a business owner. It really is when. And I hate to say that because so many business owners cringe. Like, just the thought of having an issue with a client or a customer comes up is scary. But that's why you want to make sure you're putting protections in place in advance of that issue coming up. Because when something happens, then you can turn and look at your contracts and say, okay, well, this is what my contract says happens. Like, either we're going to try and mediate first, maybe we're going to arbitration, maybe we are going to court, but I am going to request that we can try and mediate first to see if there's a resolution. And most of the time, when you have a contract and you have these conversations with your clients and your customers ahead of time, it can filter out those problem clients and customers, quite frankly, because they know ahead of time kind of what to expect in all situations, whether things go great or if things go wrong.
Now, on my checkout pages, I use ConvertKit for my checkout pages, but right above where you click the button to pay, it says by purchasing like this masterclass, this membership, whatever, you agree to this hyperlink. Now, nobody reads them, just like no one reads the TikTok or Facebook or Instagram terms of services. But the point is I'm protecting myself. And by you purchasing, you are agreeing that you have read, which no one reads, the terms and conditions and all that stuff, correct?
Yeah. So part of the checkout process, once you have your privacy policy and your terms of use or whatever agreement it is that you're getting in place with your client or your customer, you want to make sure before they can even check out, before they can even access your product, that they are agreeing to your terms. I mean, that is what forms an enforceable contract. You want to make sure that they were given notice about the agreement, they have the chance to read it, and whether or not they do, that's on them. You provided them with the opportunity. And make sure you're keeping records. You want to keep records of that agreement so that if something does come up, you can head back to your contract and say, well, look, you agreed to this.
How do you do that electronically? Because like on what I use, ConvertKit, there's no like tick box. There's nothing for them to sign. I just have it right above the purchase button that says by purchasing this product, you are agreeing to X, Y, and Z. And then it's got hyperlinks to the pages on my website. They can go read at their leisure. I mean, it's free out there for public, but there's no way that I can say that they've actually read them. It's just a little statement with the hyperlinks above the checkout page. Is that not enough? Because I don't know what else I can do on that page.
So in ConvertKit, because I use ConvertKit as well, there is a way to add extra code to create a checkbox. So I actually recommend that they take an extra step of not just having you have the language that says by purchasing you've read and agreed to, by actually having them check a box that says I have read and agree to the terms and conditions or the terms of use and the privacy policy. Because that is the extra step that shows they did something. They weren't just blindly clicking through.
Are you one of the million? Join over 1 million people, which may be a slight hyperbole, and get productivity tips that will help you live a more productive life. Head on over to mrproductivity.com/insider.
And you can go and either on Loom or Zoom or whatever, video software you use, record yourself going through the checkout process and show it won't let anybody click through to purchase unless they check that box, and keep that as evidence.
Okay. Now, I have the boilerplate ConvertKit that doesn't have the checkbox there. So I am going to talk to you after this podcast about getting that sneaky code from you. The other question I have for you, what percentage of the people who purchase things online would you say read the terms of condition or the privacy or the terms of use? What percentage? I know you don't have an exact number, but do you take a guess how many people actually read those?
It's de minimis. I mean, I can't actually put a number on it. I am one of the self-prefaced weirdos that I read it because I'm going to read everything before I sign it. And sometimes there are just some things like you agree to it. Otherwise, you're not going to get the purchase. It just is what it is. And you have to make the decision. Is it worth it to agree to this and purchase? Or am I just going to say no, thank you and move on? But I do think it's very important to read through what you're agreeing to so that you know what can I do with this product. One example I like to give, especially in the digital course kind of community, is that people will sign up for courses and then they'll share access with friends, or they're like pool money to purchase kind of these high ticket courses. If you actually read through most people's terms of use at time of purchase, it specifically says you're not allowed to do that. And now, because software is getting much more advanced in terms of tracking what's going on behind the scenes, a lot of these platforms will show where the different logins are happening, and you'll end up getting kicked out of the course because these creators are now being able to track like, well, here you are at the same time, same day. One's in, California and the other one's in Louisiana. It's not possible.
Yeah. There's a viral video from Joe Rogan. I don't know if you've seen it, where he actually discusses the TikTok terms of conditions. Mm-hmm. And it's horrifying because they're saying they're capturing keystrokes. They're capturing data when you're on different devices, even if you have TikTok on those devices. And people are shocked. And I'm like, wait a minute. It's in their terms of conditions, their terms of use. You just blindly did what everyone else did when you download a new app. Yeah, I accept when you sign up for a new service. Everyone does it. Not you, because you read it. You've got the time to read it. But most people don't. And then when they see a video like Joe Rogan, they're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, well, you agreed to it. I guarantee you TikTok or ByteDance, whoever it is, they've got that where you accepted the terms and conditions. You agreed to it, or you couldn't use the app. That's just the way it is, what you were talking about a few minutes ago.
Well, and quite frankly, if you look at the terms and conditions or terms of service for probably every social media account that you have, there's stuff in there that you're like, but I don't want them to be able to have a, license to use all my content in whatever way, shape, or form they see fit. Like for people who post pictures of their kids, you're giving them permission to use those photos essentially for whatever purpose they see fit.
I think we get blinded to the fact, oh, TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat or LinkedIn, oh, it's so much fun. But you got to remember, there's a show on Netflix a number of years ago I saw called The Social Dilemma that says if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. And so you get all these cool apps and you can do these trending videos and go live, but you're paying the price. The problem is you're not whipping out your credit card or opening your billfold or your purse. Your information is being sold, but we don't see that because the app is so fun. But you did give them permission, like you said, when you downloaded the app, or not when you downloaded the app, but when you signed up for the service. But people are so excited about the new app. We all do it, except unless you're a lawyer named Nicole and you just hit okay and you just sign up for the service. But chances are it's probably not going to come back and bite you in the butt, but it may because you did agree to the terms and conditions.
Yep. It's one of those things you have to be cognizant of what you're agreeing to.
A lot of us look at the legal field, the law field, if you will, by shows like Night Court, Judge Judy. And I got some friends who are like you. I don't know. Now I don't know if they're lawyers or attorneys now, to be honest with you. But they said, yeah, we would love to have a court case wrapped up in 42 minutes without commercials. That'd be really nice. But that's not the reality because you got a bunch of human beings all talking about different things. You got the jury, you got the judge, you got the prosecutor, you got the defendant, you got different grades. Is it a major case? Is it a minor case? A civil case, criminal case, small claims? And it's a lot. That's why people like you have jobs.
The legal industry, I have to say, for as much of a bad rap as it gets, it's there for a reason because there are a lot of laws. There are a lot of legislation that is pending, that is going into effect, that changes the way things are being structured. And for a solopreneur, as I mentioned much earlier, who's wearing all the hats and doing all the things, staying on top of legal developments, who has the time, quite frankly, or the necessary expertise to kind of decipher what applies and what doesn't?
100%. And I if you have a business like I do, listener, like I have the membership and I've got a website and I collect email addresses, I spent $327 and got this bundle, which will tell you how to get it at the end of the show. And you just fill it out and you are protected. Now, is it going to guarantee that you'll never be sued? You'll never lose a dime? No, but you're going to be much more protected than the people who don't have any of that stuff. So you've got to protect yourself. I was not aware of how easy it is for people to sue other people. And in this country, yeah, we live in a litigious society, but that's a good and a bad. So anybody can sue anybody for any reason. If they got the money and they got the time, they want to do it. You just got to be careful. And I think the service that you're providing, Nicole, giving these fill in the blank documents that have been already given your once over because you went to law school and you passed the LSAT. I think it's a tremendous investment, but it's kind of like you mentioned Google Analytics earlier. We all just put it up on our website. We don't even think about it, but it's tracking everyone that comes to your website. And now people say, hey, what are you doing with my information? And you have a right to say, hey, if you don't agree, then don't go to my website. I mean, that's the choice of the visitor, but we have to protect ourselves. And I'm glad that you have a service that is so affordable to protect people like me.
I appreciate that. And that, one of the benefits that my customers from the legal shop get is that the templates that are uploaded there are versions of contracts that I have actually drafted for clients. So you have the peace of mind of knowing that it's something that an attorney has drafted. There's kind of that extra set of eyes to make sure that you're in compliance, essentially. And as laws change, if I make substantive revisions to my templates because of changes in the law, my customers also get the benefit of getting the updated versions of those templates.
You are licensed in California. Now, let's say I'm in Houston, Texas. Let's say I'm looking for a lawyer in Houston, Texas. Can we reach out to you and say, hey, do you know any lawyers in my part of town, my part of the country?
Yeah. So that's something I offer legal templates as a resource. And, in my law firm, I can work with business owners based in California because contract law is state specific. But I always encourage even my customers who purchase the legal templates to consult with an attorney in their state to review that template and make sure their I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, and everything that's supposed to be covered in that state is covered. So I will always, always provide some sort of connection if there's a request for an attorney in their state. Sometimes it's a referral that I get from a colleague and I've not worked with them before. And I make that very clear. Here's names that I received. I've not worked with them before. Feel free to contact them. And if you need more names, circle back. And that's something I'm always happy to do.
A thought that came to my head is someone may be thinking, wait a minute. So working with you one-on-one is going to be really expensive. So I get your templates, but you're recommending I have them reviewed by an attorney. But here's the deal. If you take Nicole's document that you fill out, don't leave all the yellow highlights in there, and have an attorney review it, you're going to spend a significant less amount of money because most of the work is already done. They're just reviewing it. They're not creating it from scratch. So you have to look at it from that perspective.
Correct. And a lot of attorneys now offer flat rate services, which is something that I do in my law firm as well, to where we'll look at a project and say, I think this will take me X amount of hours, and this is what I'm going to bill you. And that's what you're billed. Ahead of time. It's not going to be all of a sudden you get an invoice for 10 hours and you have no idea what was done in 10 hours. So it helps you as a small business owner be able to budget a little bit more to make sure you have those contractual protections. And then you can kind of put your other hats on and focus on your other zones of genius.
But I got to imagine if an attorney is looking at a document from another attorney, it's not going to take them as long than if I tried to go to Google and try to create my own document.
Please do not Google your legal.
I mean, Google's not an attorney? What?
Well, here's the thing, right? So you don't know where whatever it is that you find on Google is coming from. So it could be from somebody who's not an attorney, just slapping something up there. It could be somebody else's contract that got copied and posted. And there's also copyright rights to that contract, as weird as that sounds. So there's kind of a myriad of issues that come up because you don't know if that contract is going to be beneficial for you. You don't know if there's provisions in there that are actually going to harm you, or if you're missing things that should be in there. So when you start from, let me just Google it, you're starting at a disadvantage.
Yeah, Google is not an attorney, he's not a doctor, not a CPA. I mean, you can get some background information, but please, when it comes to legal and medical stuff, go to the professionals. Don't Google it, okay? I remember once my father had a pacemaker put in. And my father, he's like 82 years old. When he gets in the hospitals, he's like really serious. And I was talking to the doctor. I said, so did you do the surgery while watching YouTube? My dad got kind of mad. He's like, Mark, don't do that. And the attorney, listen to me. The cardiologist did miss a beat. He goes, of course. How do you think I do all these surgeries? I just go on YouTube. And then my dad looked at me like, okay, I guess it's kind of funny. It is kind of funny. I mean, have some laughter. Okay. So Nicole, I purchased the online membership bundle. That's not the only bundle that you have in the legal shop. So where can we go to find these plethora? That's my word right now. I love saying the word plethora of legal documents in your legal shop.
Yes, you can head to NicoleSherryOden.com and the tab that says Legal Shop, or you can just go to LegalTemplatesAndMore.com. Both will take you there. And you can snag either individual templates, everything from client agreements to non-disclosure agreements, independent contractor agreements, testimonial releases, or bundles. I have tried to bundle things by industry because I do find that there are kind of some general industries in the online space, from coaching to graphic designers to virtual assistants, those types of things. And the bundles are actually offered at an even further discount than buying the templates individually. I
just can't overemphasize this enough to you, listener. If you got a small business, if you're a solopreneur, I know you want to think about this stuff, but this is all about protecting yourself. I mean, And the regulations, like she said, is going to come down from the federal level. It's going to mandate, which means if you're on a reputable web hoster or you use a reputable email service provider like ConvertKit or Constant Contact or MailChimp, they're going to make it mandatory. So why not get ahead of this? Go to Nicole's legal shop. Start small, figure out which one you want. And I can tell you the online membership bundle, because I have the membership, fit perfectly. I need to get more from Nicole, which I'm sure she's very happy to hear, but it's all in the spirit of protecting yourself. You want to be preventive. You don't want to go, uh-oh, now I'm being sued. Now what? You want to try to do everything you can ahead of time. So maybe these horror stories you hear won't happen to you. Nicole, before we wrap up, any last minute information or wisdom or insights you want to share with us today?
I think that if you kind of are unsure of where to start or what templates may be necessary for your particular business, you can head to NicoleShrioden.com/guide. And I have a guide there that kind of walks you through the basic legal protections, the 9 steps that you need to focus on as you're building an online business. And that's a great place to start.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for being with us today and sharing your insights with us. Now, I'm not lying to you, listener. My head's still swimming as the show went on because there's a lot to understand, but that's why we have someone like Nicole come in here and talk to you about the importance of protecting yourself. Please, you got your family, you got your friends. Don't let yourself be destroyed because you didn't want to do the privacy or terms and conditions or whatever other things she offers there. Protect yourself, please. I know it's boring, not to Nicole, but it's boring to most of us, but it's necessary. So Nicole, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This was a great conversation.
Wait. It's not over yet. Hold the phone. Literally, hold your phone for a second. I want you to do me and Nicole a huge favor. You just finished listening to her talk about the importance of protecting your stuff online. Now, would you please do us both a favor? Hit that share icon on whatever podcast player you're listening to this episode on and share it with 2 or 3 of your friends who need this information like you did. Nicole and I thank you in advance for doing that. And don't forget, if you want to sign up for the free 21-day productivity challenge or find out anything else about me, just head on over to my website, MrProductivity.com, MISTER, MrProductivity.com, or you can click the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time and attention for listening to this episode of the Mr. Productivity Podcast. Until we're back with a brand new episode, stay productive, but most importantly, stay positive.